The biggest company has reported earnings last night. Mainly, it beat everything but the data centers. But we do see a decent dip. As we can see, it kind of tried to come back a little bit, but then, fell down. And then now we opened up a little bit higher. So honestly, we can see what happens. With that being said, do keep in mind that the conference call is later on today, and that can bring some volatility into NVIDIA and like actually the overall SPY. As we can see, the SPY did sell off a decent amount, but we're back up and we touched 647, which is insane because we touched a high yesterday and then we broke past it in the pre-market hours. With that being said, I do want to see if SPY can break above that 647 level and we can make another high for the day, and or it might just start selling off. We have a lot to talk about. We got to talk more about NVIDIA. We got to talk more about the overall seasonality, why stocks might start selling off. And then we'll get into some support, some resistance, and some potential plays that we can make today and during September if we do get that dip. So you guys don't want to miss out on anything. Follow me on X, NextGen Wealth Tips, so you guys get the news early while the market opens. And let's get started with this video. So we got the numbers out. So we beat the EPS by 4%. So we got 1.05 compared to the 1.01. And then we beat the revenue by 1%. It would have did better if we did have data centers. We're going to be talking about why a little bit later. But with that being said, we have 46.743 compared to the 46.13, which is a decent beat. But I think people and investors were expecting an even greater beat. But honestly, man, if they get the H20 chip sales, we can have that data center up a little bit more. With that being said, man, the EPS is up 54% year over year. The revenue is up 56% year over year, and the EPS is indeed up 30% quarter over quarter, and the revenue is up 6% quarter over quarter as well. So that's not too bad. And honestly, man, we got some more news and data that came out. So first off, man, the NVIDIA sees quarter three revenue 54 billion plus or minus 2%. And the estimate was 53.46. And then the data center revenue is the one that didn't beat. And that's what we got to talk about a little bit more. This is what people might have sold off NVIDIA a little bit for. So we got 41.1 and the estimate was 41.29, which isn't a bad one. But I mean, it still didn't beat expected. And honestly, man, didn't really look too good overall. But the H20 forecast is also not in the earnings. And you might have to wait until the conference call. So we do have the conference call today. So we might hear a little bit more about the H20 forecast and potentially that new chip that they were talking about. And they do have a big buyback number. So they approved an additional $60 billion in share buyback. So that is kind of insane overall. And then if we zoom into this chart, now this is the NVIDIA quarterly revenue trend. Revenue by market. So this is just how it's been moving. And honestly, we do have consistent growth overall. But if we look at this, man, the data center alone is 41 billion compared to the 46 billion that they got. So keep this in mind overall. This is why NVIDIA might be potentially selling off, because the data center is the biggest. Like gaming is only 4 and the other ones aren't really as big. It's mainly the data centers that's bringing them up like literally every quarter to say. So with that being said, man, as we can see with this chart, their data center revenue is their biggest. And honestly, just comparing how big it is overall, it is honestly just much greater. And some investors are probably seeing this and seeing slower growth overall than originally expected and just taking profits right now. So don't think that this is the end for NVIDIA at all. I hope you I hope you don't see that. And honestly, man, this is pretty good overall for NVIDIA. So keep this in mind. And honestly, man, if we look at this chart too, man, this is just NVIDIA's growth overall. And I think this is when they started AI, open AI, and then we just been growing ever since. A constant trend upwards. And honestly, quarter after quarter, we'll probably see it continue going up, basically, especially with everybody trying to get into AI. The only issue is their main competition right now is indeed AMD, but AMD isn't really touching the Blackwell yet. And we do have other companies making some chips. I think it was Microsoft or Meta or something like that. They came out with a chip that performed pretty well, but it's still not touching the Blackwell, like I said. And a lot of people in cloud computing and stuff like that still wants NVIDIA's chips. So honestly, man, I don't think NVIDIA is going to be falling anytime soon. And I think it's still a good stock to hold for your long term. So as we go back to NVIDIA's charts, man, we do see a decent sell off and it's not really holding up pretty strong. And honestly, man, I'm just seeing what all can happen overall. With that being said, I am going to be looking to the downside at that 174 level. And if we break below that, the 170 is going to be key. So please watch that 170 level. If we break below that, we could probably look a little bit more bearish and see a greater fall. But to the upside, I am going to be watching that 180 level. If we can break above that 180 level, 181.5, and then the highs from yesterday, 183.5 to like 183. And if we could break past that, we could probably get 185. And the next level after that would, of course, be 190. But honestly, man, what we're going to be talking about a little bit later might give investors a little bit of a worry. But keep in mind that conference call is going to be big. So just have that on your mind overall. So now let's talk about the monthly seasonality for the S&P 500 and mainly tech stocks. You might have some, staples, gold going up. We do have gold coming up right now as we speak. But with that being said, man, the month of September doesn't really look too good at all. 10 year, 5 year, and all average. So honestly, man, right now we gotta be ready to adjust our plays. We are getting to the end of August where people might be taking profits. With that being said, September doesn't really look too good overall. With that being said, we can also play some plays towards the end of September to position ourselves for October, November, and December. December, I think mainly Amazon would be a key stock there. But with that being said, I am going to be looking at some long-term call options for the month of October and November because that can set us up for some success and some bigger plays overall. So keep September on your mind and on your radar, and a little bit bigger of a broader chart of September overall on average. We do kind of itch up higher the first and the second, but then we start selling off. Even the 10-year we start selling off. With that being said, we do start falling off a decent amount for like the first week and week and a half potentially. And then the second week or third week, whatever the seventh would be, we start itching up a little bit higher, and then we start selling off after that week as well. So keep all this on your mind, man. This is going to be a weird month because honestly, the way the stock market is looking, we can potentially break the data and not even go down at all. But please keep this on your mind because every investor has this on their mind. Every investor hates the month of September. And honestly, they might be taking profits very, very soon. And then once they start taking profits, Wall Street takes profits, big money takes profits, and then you're going to start seeing other people playing put options and then start taking profits potentially too. And that's just going to kind of do the snowball effect, and we might see stocks sell off even greater. And then the ending of September, we might have a big buyback, a big V-shaped recovery, and we'll be good once again. So last September, man, it didn't really look too bad last September. I'm not even going to lie, but we did have a big sell-off the beginning of September and then a big V-shaped recovery coming back. So honestly, this is what I'm kind of looking for, is a big sell-off and then that V-shaped recovery to come in. And this is where you can buy your call options. You guys can have your patience too. You can even buy it a little bit later. As you can see, we broke past the August highs and then broke past a new all-time high basically. So I'm going to be positioning a play at around that V-shaped recovery if we do get one potentially, because honestly, man, I think ever since we got the April lows, as you can see here, everybody's seen that V-shaped recovery. Everybody's seen new all-time highs. And ever since then, man, people's been buying the dip very, very fast. So keep that in mind as well. People might be buying this dip pretty fast because that's what we've been seeing recently. Like people don't want to give up their stocks because they see that we break all-time highs even after we have a big sell-off. So honestly, man, that's one thing to keep on your mind and on your radar overall. Let's go to the calendar or the stock market earnings calendar for a little bit. So we do have Dollar General, Best Buy, and then Dick's Sporting Goods right before, and then right after we have Dell. Dell might be pretty decent, and then maybe Petco. And then tomorrow, what I'm kind of pumped for before open, we have Alibaba, a Chinese stock. But honestly, Alibaba has been moving pretty strong. And last time their earnings did pretty well. I made a decent amount of money. So I don't know if I'm going to play anything on this, but if you guys want to be updated on that, just follow me on my X account. I will post my plays. And itching to the calendar, we do got some big data an hour before market opens, and that's going to be initial jobless claims. And we also have GDP. So keep this on your mind because this can really show where the stock market might be opening. So honestly, just depending on how this data prints. So honestly, keep that on your mind. And then 30 minutes after, we have pending home sales, and then we have a speech 2 hours after market closes. Not really, maybe not too important. But then on Friday, we have a little bit more data. So we have personal income, personal spending, PCE, and then honestly, just like retail inventories, trade imbalances, and this is all going to be an hour before market opens. So this can potentially make a big move before market opens. And then 15 minutes after market opens, we have the business PMI, and then we have the consumer sentiment final. 30 minutes after market opens. So that can potentially move the market on Friday, but that's for tomorrow. We're not worried about that. We're worried about the initial jobless claims and the GDP. So keep this on your radar. With that being said, man, I did post on my X some of the plays that I'm watching. So with that being said, man, let's get into some plays, support some resistance, and see where we can go. So honestly, man, SPY can potentially open up at all-time highs. We still have like three to 4 more hours until market opens. With that being said, man, we do got to have our patience with this one. And honestly, man, the way SPY moved yesterday, it moved pretty decent. I actually got a call option right at market open just because I don't know, I kind of just positioned this one and I was like, okay, like we did pretty well on Friday, or not Friday, Tuesday. So honestly, I just played it and I seen other stocks going up, and then I think I sold at around that 646.29. I think it was like a 20% play. It wasn't anything major. I didn't really want to play anything big. I was also going to scope out a Tesla play. I was going to scope out a put option at around that 354 because I kind of thought that we wouldn't stay above that 350 level, and it was kind of right, but I didn't get into this play because then it was kind of green, kind of red, kind of green. So it's kind of just bouncing up and down. But here would have been a good time to play your put option, but I wasn't really watching Tesla at that time. And then also Apple, I wanted to play a call option, but then it was like, it was green and then a big red. I think I missed out on this red. I wasn't watching Apple. And then I started watching it and it was already above the line. So I was like, all right, I'm not gonna play it when it's high. And then it just kept moving kind of sideways. And then we finally broke up a little bit more. So honestly, man, I want to see how Apple plays out. And then for yesterday's video, I did mention a put option that I bought. I think I bought it. I forgot where I bought it at. I think I bought it right when market closed. I bought a put option, and it would have probably printed a decent amount right at market open. But it probably wouldn't have been that good either way. But with that being said, I was gonna play a little put option on Apple for 2 weeks and see if we can print it next week. But it was like right at market close, and it didn't fill, which is good because it probably wouldn't have been that good anyway. But with that being said, man, I am going to be watching how Apple reacts today. If we can hold above that 230 level, we might look a little bit more bullish. And with that being said, we did hold above it a decent amount. We bounced below it for like a couple of minutes, but then we bounced above it once again. So with that being said, I want to see if we can hold that 230 level for Apple. And then if we can, we might be going up to some, maybe 233 to 235. I don't know if I want to play September seasonality. I want to see the September sell-off start, and then that's when I'm going to get into a put option. But with that being said, I'm going to be watching that 233 and then see how it reacts. If we get up to 235, I don't think we can in one day, but sometimes Apple moves strong, especially with good news. We do got the new phones coming out next week, and people are kind of hyping it up for some reason. But as you can see with data in the past, that the iPhone 16 was like the most sold phone in a while, meaning that like a lot of people upgraded to the iPhone 16. Like even if you have like the iPhone 10, iPhone 11, like I know a lot of people, they had like the iPhone 10 still and they upgraded to the iPhone 16. So a lot of people upgraded to the iPhone 16 and data showed. So with that being said, why are they going to upgrade to the iPhone 17, But I mean, we're still going to get some sales. You got people that get it every single year. And honestly, it's still pretty good. You still got those contracts where you get the new iPhone every single year as well. But with that being said, I'm going to be watching that 235 level. And then if we break above that, it might be a little bit more bullish. But for some put options, I'm going to be watching that 234.2 and that 233.5 and just see how it reacts to it. If we kind of show some resistance, and it starts bouncing off, sellers start coming in, that's when a good put option is going to be placed. I might be looking for like 10 to 20% on this trade. I'm not looking for anything major. But with that being said, if we do have a greater sell-off with that, I might just hold it overnight. But holding it overnight ain't really good neither. But with that being said, if we do start itching down lower, I'm going to be watching that 230 level. If we can get a bounce off that 230 level, we could buy a call option there. But only if we get some good volume in there. And then if SPY moves up as well, if SPY looks pretty bullish. And then also, I think NVIDIA might be a big hit on this one too, because NVIDIA is going to move the SPY. So I want to see how NVIDIA moves too. But honestly, man, it was kind of weird. So NVIDIA lost their earnings, and it kind of seemed like after hours, people started putting their money into Apple instead because we went up like almost like $1 off of that move. So I think people are putting their money into Apple, taking it out of NVIDIA. So honestly, I just want to see how it correlates with NVIDIA. If NVIDIA starts selling off and Apple starts going up, that might be a little bit more bullish too. So there's a lot of things to get into this play that I'm watching. So just honestly, I know I shouted out my X a lot. I'm going to be posting on X. So if you guys want to know if I got in and why I got in, I'm going to be posting it on X. But that is mainly what I'm looking at is Apple. Maybe NVIDIA, maybe a little play on NVIDIA if we get some good news. Only if we get like great news where it's like, okay, it's going to go up. That's going to be another 10 to 20% play that I'm scoping out. Not anything major for this week. I think the bigger plays are going to be next week when we see how September moves. And then if we can get a put option in, that's where you can make the most amount of your money. And I think some plays I'm going to be watching for some puts is going to be NVIDIA. Maybe Apple, but Apple is still kind of falling behind, and I don't think it's going to sell off too much. So I think mainly NVIDIA and maybe Palantir. Palantir has been selling off, and potentially Tesla. Tesla is a good day trade stock too. But let's look more into AMD. So AMD did sell off a decent amount. But with that being said, it is holding up pretty strong. And I think that it might be 50-50 for AMD overall, because even if NVIDIA loses, they might see AMD and look at their data centers too and see that data centers isn't really doing too good. And all chip stocks can sell off, but they can also look at AMD as their competition and then potentially buy some more AMD while they take their money out of NVIDIA, they put in the AMD, but it's kind of just 50-50 with that one. Next one is going to be Boeing. Boeing has been moving pretty strong, but honestly, man, kind of lacking. At the same time, it's not moving as strong when we got like all those deals, like the 500 jets for China. I think it was in like 100 jets for South Korea, but it still looks pretty strong in the short term. So I do want to see if we can break above that 236. If we can break above there, maybe even 238, we might be able to get a 240 move. And if we can break past that 240, we might even get like $1 to $2 move after that. But if we do start selling off, that's what I'm looking for right now, is a bigger sell off. And if we can get a bigger sell off, I feel like that we're kind of in a little range. And I think we can probably get down to 227 at least and maybe get a bounce off of there. So honestly, I'm watching the 227.3 level if I do get into a put option, and that's probably where I'm going to sell at. Next one is going to be Tesla. So yesterday was pretty good because we closed above the 350 level, and we kind of held it a little bit yesterday, or not yesterday, the day before yesterday, we closed above the 350. And then yesterday we kind of held above it for a little bit, and then we finally made a bigger sell off overall. With that being said, I'm going to be saying if we can retest that 350 level, and if we can, we could potentially get 355 next. With that being said, if we do start selling off a little bit more, we got some gaps to fill downward. So first one is going to be 345 and that 340 level. So if you do see it break below that 345 level, you might be able to play a put option to that 340 level. The good thing with Tesla is that when it makes a move, it kind of marries that move for a little bit. As you can see yesterday, like it wasn't a clear move to the downside, but it did consistently move to the downside overall. And honestly, it didn't really look like buyers were in the play that much. And honestly, Tesla just didn't really look too good yesterday. And then the same thing with Tuesday. We kind of carried a range. Buyers and sellers were both winning. And then finally buyers came in last second. And then the day before that on Monday, we had buyers just come in and just stay in for a little bit. And then they finally calmed down a little bit. With that being said, a Tesla can be a good play up or down. Just see the way it reacts basically, and see just where we move basically. But with Tesla, I don't recommend marrying one side for a couple of days. It's mainly like a day trade stock. Maybe hold it for like an hour or two, get your profits. You can make a decent amount of money though. I know people that can 100% to like 200% a day. And it just really just depends. But when the overall market sells, I think Tesla can sell off a big amount as well. So honestly, if we do get that September seasonality, we can see Tesla sell off a little bit more. But with that all being said, man, good luck trading. Comment down below what stocks you guys are watching. Follow me on X, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Good luck trading today, guys. Peace out.